I'm gonna keep it nice and short for this one. This movie's bad. It's not good. It's not worth your time nor your money. Don't even bother going to see this in the movie theater because it is a literal waste of time. I really could just end the video here and call it a day, but there's a couple of things that I do want to talk about that are related to this movie, so you gotta stick with me a little bit more. So yes, I went and saw Red One, and like I stated before, this is not a good movie. It's not well directed. It's horribly written. The characters are nothing. Like, literally, none of these characters are interesting whatsoever. They have no personalities. They have some of the most bare minimum cookie cutter ass motivations. It's just an incredibly frustrating movie. Not because it's like insultingly bad, it's because this movie is the definition of a movie that was made by committee instead of, I don't know, an actual director, an actual writer actually wanting to tell this story. It is just a commercial movie that serves no real purpose. And it's sad to say that. I love Christmas, I love Christmas movies, and I always have my arms open and welcoming to new Christmas movies for them to potentially be Christmas classics. The unfortunate part is that for some reason nowadays, Christmas movies are just kind of not the way that they used to make them. I know that that's probably the most boomer thing that I'll ever say in my entire life, but there's a little bit of a difference on how Christmas movies were made, I don't know, before, like a couple of years ago, and how they are made today. The magic, the whimsy, the joy is something that a lot of Christmas movies nowadays seem to really lack, which is like the main thing about a good Christmas movie. Is if you don't have at least one of these three elements, I feel like your Christmas movie has the potential of being the biggest colossal failure. And why do we get here? We have a pretty big colossal failure in our hands. Aside from the things that I already mentioned about the movie, this movie also has like some really awful production. Like I mentioned before, the directing of this movie is absolutely bland. It's boring, it's uninteresting, nothing here really stands out. And as you can tell, this movie stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, also known as the man with the biggest ego in the entire Hollywood industry, and also Chris Evans, who cannot catch a break in being in just shitty movies. I mean, it is almost impressive to see how this dude is in any new movie, and it's usually always straight to streaming, and it's usually really bad. But I think the most shocking thing about those movies is how the quality of them just looks absolutely... It's nothing. These movies don't have good production value. All these movies look the same. I'm talking about movies like Pain Hustlers, Ghosted, and Gray Man, which have all been panned by critics. Also, all those three movies are straight to streaming, either on Apple TV or Netflix. I swear to God, all these movies that star Chris Evans look the exact same. Just no real life or passion put into any of the filming of these movies. They look like they were done by the same director, the same cinematographer, the same photographer. They all look the exact same. Like, you could show me a picture or a frame of any of these movies and I would have a really hard time trying to tell you what's the difference between these three. In fact, let's put it to test. On the left, we have a frame from the film Ghosted, and on the right, we have a frame from the film Pain Hustlers. Now, can you tell me the difference between these two? That was a trick question. They're both Red One. And the same could be said about Red One. It's such a sauceless movie. This movie is the definition of sauceless. The lack of sauce of this movie is genuinely impressive. I am shocked of how much this movie lacks any real care or passion put into it. Like I said, this movie just feels like it was made by a committee. It was made by a group of people in suits in a big ass room saying, this is what the people like and this is what the people want. And it's like, this is not what the people want, okay? This is bullshit. This is bland. This is boring. This is uninteresting. This is not challenging audiences. It's a movie that was made for only commercial purposes. And when you're only making a movie for commercial purposes, I'm sorry, most likely you're going to come out with a real big piece of shit. There's one thing specifically about this movie that really just bothers the ever-living shit out of me. This movie's version of Santa Claus is played by J.K. Simmons, and J.K. Simmons is a great actor, and I like him in almost anything that I see him. Here, it's almost like he doesn't give a shit about it. Like, he's not really giving his best performance. He's also not giving his worst performance. He's just kind of here, you know? He's just kind of going with the vibe of it. But I am really disappointed at the fact that this is possibly the lamest version of Santa Claus ever. A big trend in recent years is the concept of a cool Santa Claus or a badass Santa Claus. You know, a Santa Claus that, yes, is jolly, but is also a force to be reckoned with. And boy, I'll just say this right now. Anytime anybody tries to do the cool Santa Claus or the badass Santa Claus, it is always the laziest, the lamest, cringiest shit imaginable. It is genuinely mindfucking that the only movie to ever do the badass Santa Claus trope right was Rise of the Guardians. I don't know if to say it's embarrassing, because Rise of the Guardians is a banger movie. I love that film. It's a legitimately amazing film. But at the same time, it is embarrassing the fact that, wow, no other movie has been able to do the badass Santa Claus trope and do it right or do it fun whatsoever. Like, the reason badass Santa Claus works in Rise of the Guardians is because they don't strip Santa Claus away from what makes Santa Santa. Yes, of course, he has the Russian accent, he has battle swords, and he has the crazy badass tattoos, but at the end of the day, he's still a big fat guy in a red suit. He's still jolly, he still has a sense of humor. Even though the design is really extreme, it still maintains the core characteristics of what makes Santa Claus Santa Claus. Let's look at another example that tried to do the badass Santa Claus that really fell flat on its face. Violent Night is about a badass and violent Santa Claus that pretty much the only thing he does in the entire movie is beat the ever-living shit out of people and kill motherfuckers. Played by David Harbour, by the way, which in a way is good casting for Santa Claus if you ask me. Here's the problem though. This Santa Claus only characteristic is the fact that he's pissed. He's cynical towards Christmas. So he's not jolly, he's not happy, he's not humorous, he's just a big old fat guy in a red suit that's killing people. And I'm sorry, but to me, that's just really boring and downright cringy at some points. Then we have the Santa Claus in Red One, which is this is like nothing. He has a little bit of jolliness, but the fact that he lacks any sort of sense of humor, and also the fact that he's not fat, he's just boring in general. His whole getup is boring. His whole setup is boring. Bitch, this Santa Claus literally works with the government. That is the most boring ass shit imaginable for Santa Claus. His elves are not even elves, they're fucking trolls. There's a big ass Cyclops troll here as well. What the fuck is this North Pole? This is stupid. I know it sounds ridiculous that I'm getting so defensive about Christmas and the characteristics of Santa Claus and what makes Santa Claus and the North Pole so special. Those things are important to Santa Claus's whole mythos, his whole character. So the fact that they can't even do that shit right, not only that, but the fact that they want to treat Santa Claus as this badass guy that's jacked and shit, it's like nothing. Like, this Santa Claus is boring. There's nothing to the Santa Claus. So really, that's all I have to say about it. If I had to rate the movie, it'll probably be like, I don't know, a 3 out of 10. It is a movie that will not leave an impression on anybody. Shit, it left no impression on me by the time it ended. By the time it ended, really, I forgot most of the movie. There's nothing remarkable about it. There's nothing really that will stick with you. There's no value to this shit. Also, the fact that this movie also has a shitload of special effects that are inconsistent throughout the movie, it's like, oh boy, this is one of those that's not gonna age well in the long run. But what did you think of Red One, if you even saw it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Or are you just kind of in the middle? Let me know down in the comments. I really want to know what you guys think about it. And like always, good day, good night, and stay safe.